Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This morning is Sandhya Mataji's class. She wanted me to do that. I have a meeting also. I will quickly read through and then we will see if we can discuss. So today's verse is Canto 3, Chapter 27, verse 22. So before we do that, ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य सचारिणी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। शुश्रूषो श्रद्धदानस्य वासुदेवा कथारुचि स्यान्महत्सेवया विप्रा पुण्यतीर्थनिषेवनात्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृदयन्तस्थो हि अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तदा रजस्तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्च चेतैतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति। एवं प्रसन्न मनसो भगवद्भक्तियुगता भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गः स जायते। विद्यते हृदयाग्रन्थि सर्वसंशयः क्रियन्ते यशस्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे। Sorry, there was a work meeting is also there. I need to. Thank you all once again for joining this morning Bhagavatam reading. So we are continuing with our Canto 3, Chapter 27, Understanding the Material Nature. ज्ञानेन दृष्टतत्त्वेन वैराग्येन बलीयशा तपोयुक्तेन योगेन तीव्रेणात्मा समाधिना। Jnanena, in knowledge, Drishta Tatvena, with vision of the absolute truth, Vairagyena, with renunciation, Baliyasa, very strong, Tapayuktena, by engagement in austerity, Yogena, by mystic yoga, Tivrena, firmly fixed, Atma Samadhina, by self-absorption. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. Purport: devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material emotion or mental concoction. It is specifically mentioned here that one has to perform devotional service in full knowledge by visualizing the absolute truth. We can understand about the absolute truth by evolving transcendental knowledge, and the result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. The result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. That renunciation is not temporary or artificial, but is very strong. It is said that development of Krishna consciousness is exhibited by proportionate material detachment or vairagya. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya, austerity. One should fast on the two Ekadasi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing and waning moon, and on the birthdays of Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and the mind. Yoga Indriya Samyama. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able by development of knowledge to understand his constitutional position relationship with the supreme super self. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Um, yeah, this is in continuation to Kapili Devi's telling to his mother, right? So they actually it all, if I go back a little bit from the uh, uh, in the beginning of this chapter, so Kapil Dev is continuing about how the whole. Let me go back to the verses. Yeah, in the first few verses, he says how through the transcendental to living entity, it's transcendental, but is in the material world is getting conditioned and changing one body after another body. It is because it is getting too absorbed in the material activities and lording it over the material nature, and it is unable to give up that. And as long as the living entity is influenced by this attachment to the material nature, he will not be able to come out of it, right? So the material existence will continue, and then if one body after the body, right, the soul transmigrates. So though the whole material existence is, this whole thing is like a dream, right, because the soul is transcendental, and the soul is identifying with the material nature, which is in reality it is not true, right? So but then this whole thing is like a dream, but it's a long dream, right? So then a lot of things are happening within that dream. So that's why the soul continues to identify that, and then having impacts of those whatever is happening even in a dream, right? One may get a dream like a tiger is running or chasing us. So I mean we still get that fear in the dream. So same thing is happening in the current existence, but it is a long dream. It goes on and on. So, therefore, Lord Kapila says in the next verse, it is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage is polluted consciousness, which is now attached to this material enjoyment, in a very serious devotional service with detachment. These things are continuing with serious and sincere, and then detachment to renunciation in this verse, right? So, I mean, multiple times he is repeating that. Then he gives the process of devotional service, what it involves, hearing and chanting the and qualities, and what are the qualities to be cultivated. Then he talks about what happens to the soul during the universal destruction stage. The soul goes into the unconscious state, right? But still it suffers. It's like again another dream within a dream. So then the verses, last couple of few, I mean, until the 21st is the verse Kapila Dev starts, but before that, Mother Devakti will ask again a question to, I mean, these three, four verses, she was asking about how the soul is almost like eternally attached to this material nature, right? Because time immemorial, Nitya Baddha, living entity in this material nature, it is like tightly bonded. So how is it possible to come out of it, right? So is it really that liberation is possible, that what Kapila Deva was explaining? So is it really possible? So that's what Mother Devahuti was asking. So in the 21st verse, I mean, yesterday, the verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, I'm reading the translation, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. About hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction and will be freed from the contamination of matter. So then in this verse, the Lord is continuing again. So it has to be performed, um, uh, performed strongly in perfect knowledge, right? With transcendental vision. And also one has to be renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga. So one has to perform this bhakti in intense way. I mean, it's not a uh, it's okay. I mean, chalta hai kind of attitude, right? I mean, then it is not going to give that complete impact or complete benefit, right? I mean, there will be some benefit, whatever one does. So Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, Gnanena, right? I mean, the devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material, emotion, or mental concoction. So here, mental concoction is, we know, mental is the mind, right? So something is driven by our own mind and not based on the scriptures. So, based on our personal desires or material attachments, one concocts something and continues to do that. Yeah, my grandfather did this, or my grandmother did this, or my mother did this. So I'm doing the worship in this way. So this is devotional service. But that is a concocted way. It is not going to, it is not a complete devotional service. So there will be some benefit of doing that, but it will not result in the ultimate benefit, right? So for example, some people fast on certain days. If that is not based on any scriptural understanding or pleasing the Supreme Lord, it is not going to give any benefit other than that whatever dieting, right? So, but if it is with intention to please the Lord, that would be a bhakti, right? As we know, bhakti is not just that activity or even doing austerity, or in a hot weather, right? People walk with a barefoot. Those are austerities. So those austerities, as long as they're not for the purpose of pleasing the Lord, they're in different other modes, right? As we heard in the Bhagavad Gita. So a lot of times we hear people saying that, yeah, I know Krishna, I love Krishna since my childhood. Uh, I mean, it is good that they have that attachment or kind of attraction to the Lord, but that in itself is not bhakti, because Prabhupada, Kapil Dev is saying that it has to be done in perfect knowledge, right, to get the ultimate benefit. So Prabhupada is also saying that it should not be a mental concoction or a kind of emotion, right? So one has to be come to this perfect knowledge stage, then the devotional service, then it is called devotional service. Otherwise, it is just a sentiment, right? So there are they're all good. As I was saying, but this they will help us maybe move up the ladder a little bit very slowly. So, but then how come a normal person get the perfect knowledge, right? In the if and that is only possible if one hears in the proper parampara, right? Without hearing from a devotee who is coming in a parampara, so it is really impossible to get this perfect knowledge. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam, so Prabhupada is talking about in the 21st verse, second chapter. So in the purport, perfect knowledge is called parampara, is just equating that. Perfect knowledge is called parampara or detective knowledge, coming down from the authority to this submissive oral receiver, who is a bona fide by service and surrender. Of course, that is the Bhagavad Gita verse is paraphrasing. So that with the Pranipatena, one has to do the service to the person who is coming in parampara and to surrender to him, and then inquiry from him, and then one will be able to get that perfect knowledge. So, I was just trying to find out a couple of places where Prabhupada talked about this, about the perfect knowledge. And again, in the fourth canto, where the Prutu Maharaj's pastimes are going on in the 20th chapter. So he was talking about perfect knowledge is acquired from the acharyas or liberated souls. No one can be perfect in knowledge without being trained by a parampara system, by the parampara system. Again, in the 31st chapter, he says, when perfect knowledge is explained, one chooses to see the outward covering of the living entity. He sees rather the spirit soul within the body. Thus he does not make distinctions between a human being, an animal, and learned Brahmana and Chandala. Again, the Bhagavad Gita verse, right? That Prabhupada is quoting here. Then of course that itself is makes the transcendental vision, not seeing the outward coverings of the body, I mean the living entity, but sees the actual soul in itself, how the soul is related to the supreme lord, right? I mean the how the soul is bound in this material world. I mean the complete activities are complete change. So that is the vision, transcendental vision. So one has to have, I mean, to be engaged in the pure devotional service. So then again, I was looking at this transcendental vision. Prabhupada takes multiple places, right? I mean, of course, that is the stand. Many times uses that. So he talks about this verse. I mean, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Ka Vihasini verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. Right, so verse 18. So I mean he says that one who has got the eyes to see, he does not see that here is a learned brahmana and here is a dog. He sees both the learned brahmana and the dog in equal vision, because he does not see the dress. He sees the spirit soul within the brahmana, within the dog. So that is called brahma darshana. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. So 1854, Bhagavad Gita, when one has got that vision, a transcendental vision, sama sarveshu bhuteshu mat bhakti, then the devotional service begins. Not that with the blunt eyes and senses one can serve the Lord. But then what is that? We are not in that complete perfect knowledge, right? Of course, though we are hearing in the parampara system, and we don't have this transcendental vision. I mean, some of us have it, and some of us still practicing it, right? So then, but then the bhakti that we are performing is, I mean, sadhana bhakti, right? I mean, the practicing devotional service. We are trying to get to that stage of getting the full knowledge and having the transcendental vision. So if I mean, I was trying to see how this will help, right? I mean, I was just remembering His Holiness Romapad Maharaj was quoting about this in one of the classes. I kind of forgot what series was that. It was in the actually was talking about the Yoga Sutras. So one of them is that if one performs this activity, whatever activity for a long time, right, in a consistent manner, without uh, without failing, I mean, a daily, right? So Nitya, I think. So then the result will come, right? So, I mean, if one continues to perform this sadhana bhakti in the parampara system for a long time in a consistent manner, so, I mean, of course, one will get to that stage of perfection, right? So, then I was trying to see this vairagya, right? I mean, what is the result of Prabhupada is talking about in the purport? What is the Yeah, what is the result of this transcendental knowledge? How that will get manifested? So it will get manifested by renunciation. So what is that renunciation that Prabhupada is talking about? The temporary renunciation and then the very strong renunciation, permanent renunciation. So temporary renunciation is like Smashan Vairagya, right? I mean, generally we hear when somebody close relative or somebody leaves, and people talk a lot of philosophical things about, yeah, I mean, anything, yeah, I mean, everything about all the renunciation things will hear, but that will last there in itself, right? So it will not come, it will not follow us after that, leaving that cremation place or crematorium, right? So that then people continues to with the old business, right? We'll completely forget about that what we just talked about or what we had. So that renunciation is a temporary renunciation, and also I mean other places Prabhupada used to talk about this monkey renunciation, right? So but the activities that it does is kind of completely opposite to it, right? What the monkey does, it lives in the forest, it eats, it doesn't wear anything, but yeah, still it does various other things that is not really renunciation activities. And of course, we hear Rupa Goswami talks about Falgu Vairagya, right? I mean, So that vairagya, which is simply renouncing and thinking, not thinking that they all belongs to the Supreme Lord, that also is not kind of a permanent vairagya. One will not be able to do that. It is kind of faltu, right? I mean, it's wrong. So, but then what is real renunciation? Of course, again, in the Prabhupada Goswami talks about that in the Nectar of Devotion, right? About the what is the verse? I mean, in Anasakta Shivishyan. Yeah, so that verse, so it talks about how the real renunciation is acknowledging that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord or the property of the Supreme Lord, and then using that in the service of the Supreme Lord. That is the renunciation. If one gets to that perfect knowledge, with, of course, that renunciation will manifest, right, without having any challenge, right? I mean, we hear a lot of times Prabhupada was I mean, I remember a past time Prabhupada was, I mean, somebody gave a lot of big, I mean, suitcase of money, right? And Prabhupada's eyes was kind of blown. And then, I mean, it was a lot of money those days also, right? I mean, 50, 60 years ago. So as soon as, I mean, Prabhupada was happy, and then, I mean, it looks like he was happy with the money, but immediately as soon as that person leaves and he distributes that money to different, I mean, personalities who are taking care in charge of different projects under in the moment, and then of course the whole thing is gone. So everything was kind of used in this Krishna service immediately without even attaching or putting that money in somewhere, right? So getting attached to that, that is real vairag. So, I mean, of course, Kapil Dev is talking about how this whole, I mean, Prabhupada showed this whole thing with his living example, right? I mean, so that's what I was kind of thinking, how this whole devotional service uh, with the various activities, perfect knowledge with the transcendental vision. And I mean, of course, he has not thought, okay, this person is qualified or that person is not qualified to give that bhakti, right? He has given to each and everyone. So I was just thinking about Srila Prabhupada when we kind of reading this translation. So that's all I have. Devotees, if you have anything, please kindly share. If nothing else, maybe we will end here. Thank you all for joining. पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। पुरंदरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।